Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechakwadash, Barakatah. Double honors to the elders and apostles and the righteous men of great millstone who teach us this truth and righteousness and sincerity and in brotherly love. And salutations to the hopeful elect, the 144,000 men of Yasharallah, and the 1/3 men, women, and children of Yasharallah. Shalom. This is your brother Shamya coming back at you one more time from the Great Millstone held in the Montana camp. And we're just going to jump right into it. And we ain't going to waste no more time. And we always like to make a disclaimer. We are not a hate group and we are not an extremist group. We are a truth group and we only bring out the truth according to the Bible, according to the word of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Okay? And, the 2/3 of our people, they hate the men of the Lord. They hate us. Okay? These last days we living in, the 2/3 of our people refuse to come back to the Heavenly Father, to the power, the God of Israel, the power and God of Israel. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. The 2/3 of our people refuse to come back to their power. Okay? That's what it says in the book of Joel, chapter 2 and verse 27. I'm going to get that real quick because this is what it says. And the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is the God of Israel. And he's in the midst of his people and none else. That's what the scriptures say. And we're not making this up. I'm going to put it up to the camera just to prove it too. Because we prove all things through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And the elders, apostle, great millstone, the Lord set up. This is Joel chapter 2 and verse 27. It says, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel. The Lord is in the midst of Israel, and that he is and that he's our power. That's what the scriptures say. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God. See, personal pronoun. The Lord is the God of the Israelites, and none else. The Lord ain't the God of the Ammonites and the Edomites and the Moabites and the Hamites. No, he's the God of Israel. Okay, the God of the Israelites. Joel 2:27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people, who is the Lord people? It just said it right there. The Lord is in the midst of Israel. And my people shall never be ashamed. Okay? We the righteous of Yasharallah, we're not ashamed of our power. The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai has given us back his true, holy, wonderful, almighty, great name. In the land of our captivity, this last captivity that the Lord have us in, he has brought us back into remembrance that we are his people, that we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, okay? And the Lord, like I said, the Lord has given us back our identity, and he's given us back his holy name. So we can call upon our power, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, in these last days. The 2/3 of Israel will not repent. They're not going to bow down and submit themselves and humble down to the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. That's why the Lord is going to destroy them, okay? Meanwhile, you got the 2/3 of our people in these heathen-ass Christian, wacky-tacky Christian-ass churches talking about a rapture, right? Which is what this lesson is going to be about, because it ain't going to be no rapture, okay? Ain't going to be no rapture where all these goddamn heathens, you know what I'm saying, that believe in Jesus Christ, because that's not the Lord's name. The Lord's name is Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. It ain't no goddamn Jesus Christ. And it ain't going to be no damn rapture. That's not in the scriptures. That's not scriptural. And that's why these 2/3 of Israel, these 2/3 of Israel hate us. Because we're bringing out the truth. They don't like how we're bringing out the truth. So they hate us and they want to continue to follow Jebus. Okay? Let's get this real quick because it ain't going to be no damn rapture. Okay? Because what did they say? These Christians, they you know what I'm saying, the beginning of September, they were like saying, it was going to be a rapture and ain't shit happen. So who has the truth? We have the truth. These wacky-tacky Christians don't have the truth, because why is it that the beginning of September, when they said it was going to be a rapture, and then on that day and then shit happened? They're still here. That goes to show you that rapture doctrine is not true and is false. But these people will continue to come against us, the real men of the Lord, the servants of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, okay? We have the truth. Okay, the 144% truth, we have it. Okay, let me read this real quick. Okay, this is the rapture from this website called Emmanuel Free Church, right? EmmanuelFreeChurch.com, okay? It's just the so-called Rapture, right? It's from the website, the Rapture, and it's on the website, EmmanuelFreeChurch.com. And this is what it says. This is a little article that they got on there. It says, we are one day closer to his coming than we were yesterday. The rapture is a future event when Jesus, again, that's not the Lord's name, the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach was he was a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Judah. That means he had a Hebrew name. Jesus is not a Hebrew name. Okay? It says we are one day closer to his coming than we were yesterday. The rapture is a future event where Jesus will snatch up all believers away from the earth and return with them to heaven. The most explicit passage on this topic is in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 to 17. So this is where these wacky-tacky Christians go to try to make people believe that if you believe in Jesus Christ, you're just going to be raptured up before all hell break loose, when the scriptures clearly say that everybody going to have to go through this time of trouble like no other. So these wacky-tacky Christians, these heathens that have beat, destroyed, slaughtered, hated, persecuted the Lord's people, the children of Israel, what these Edomites, especially the nation of Edom, has done to the Lord's people. And then they're going to have the nerve to say that God is going to rapture them up after what you did, all the wickedness and the evil that you done to his people. And you think you're going to be raptured up to heaven. And that's fucking bullshit, man. And like I said, this is where they go to. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 to 17. So let's go to it. Let's read it. We're going to go to 1 Thessalonians. And all praise, honor, glory to Yah, B'Shem Yahushua, hallelujah. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. And we're going to break this down. Do this the right way. Through the spirit of power, Yah, B'Shem Yahushua, and the elders, apostle, great millstone, who the Lord set up. We're going to read this. In the New Testament, this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and we're going to read verse 16 to 17. It says this: for the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua himself, shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of Yahweh. And the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. Verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up, right? Together with them in the clouds. See, they don't go into these words, and especially in the Greek. You go into the word cloud, right? We're going to go into that too. It says, then we, but who is this talking about? This is concerning a certain people. It's not talking about everybody that believe in Jesus Christ. This is talking about a certain people. Who is this certain people? Well, we're going to keep reading. It says, verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. And then, of course, verse 18, it says, wherefore comfort one another with these words. Now, let's look this up in a different translation, 1 Thessalonians, because that's what these wacky-tacky Christians don't do. They'll read the King James Version, and they'll just go with it, and then they have their doctrine. Esau has his doctrine, and he makes people believe this doctrine, which is it's not true. It's false. It's fables. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16, in the Tree of Life translation. In the footnotes, because remember we read 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16, it says, for the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God power, and the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. Now, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 16, in the Tree of Life translation, in the footnotes, this is what it says. To 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16, it says, compare Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16. Why did 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 tell us to compare Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16? In the Tree of Life translation of the footnotes. Let's go to Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16, because that's what they told us to go to. Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Exodus 19 and 16. It says this. Now the title and Exodus chapter 9. Matter of fact, you know what? This even says it in the King James Version. I'm going to put it up to the King James Version. This is what the title says. Who is this concerning? It says the children of Israel at Sinai. Right here in Exodus 19, the title chapter, the title reads in the Christian Standard Bible, the title reads Israel at Sinai. Just like what it says right here in the King James Version. So this is concerning the children of Israel. Wasn't no other nations there in Sinai. It was just the Israelites in Sinai. The children of Israel at Sinai. We read it. The title is right there. Because remember, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 16 in the Tree of Life Version translation of the footnotes, it told us to compare Exodus 19 and 16. We're showing you that in first, well, we just going to read it. Exodus 19 and 16. And this is what it reads. It says, Exodus 19 and 16, it says, and it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud. Ain't that what we read in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 16 when it says, for the Lord Yahweh Shai himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of Yahweh Shai, and the dead and the Mashiach shall rise first. That's why I told us to compare this verse with Exodus chapter 19 verse 16. Because this is concerning the Israelites. This is Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16. I'm going to read it. It says, and it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people, what people? We know what people that is. The people that had a meeting with Yahweh Shai and Mount Sinai, which were the Israelites. Right here by verse 21, the title reads, Meeting God at Mount Sinai. The beginning of the chapter, it says, the children of Israel at Sinai. Exodus chapter 19, verse 16, and it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. I'm going to read verse 17. It says, and Moses brought forth the people, who were the Israelites, out of the camp to meet with Yahweh. That's just like how it is right here when the Lord beamed up his elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3 men, women, and children of Israel. We're going to meet our power, Yahweh Shai, in the sky, up in those chairs. The Lord's going to beam his elect and the 1/3 of Israel up in those clouds, which are chariots. Those are going to be the vehicles, right? We're going to get that too. Beam us up in there. We're going to meet with our power, Yahweh Shai. Then we're going to come right back down on the earth, just like how the scriptures say, right? On earth as it is in heaven. The earth is not going to be destroyed because the scriptures say that the earth abideth forever. So the second that the Lord Yahweh Shai beam his elect and the 1/3 up in those chairs, we're going to meet our power up in those chairs, and we're going to come right back down, and that's when the kingdom starts. And we're going to prove it. Exodus 19 and 16 in the Christian Standard Bible translation, the title reads Israel at Sinai, right? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 17, right? I'm going to read this. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 17, it says, and then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds. We're going to meet the Lord up in those chariots, the clouds. We're going to prove that too. In the clouds to meet the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in the air. And so shall we be ever with the Lord. Okay? This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17. For the word clouds, the Greek word for clouds, this is the concordance for clouds. Strong's Concordance G3507, right? In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17, it says, when we are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, right? 1 Thessalonians 4:17, for the word clouds, Strong's Concordance G3507, it says, used of the cloud which led the Israelites in the wilderness. Matter of fact, on the bottom of my page, when it says clouds, we just read the concordance for that, right? It says, for clouds, G3507, used of the cloud which led the Israelites in the wilderness. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 17 tells me to go, okay, on the bottom of my page, it tells me to go to Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. Right there. We got it. We got it right up to the camera. 1 Thessalonians chapter 14 and verse 17, it tells us to go to Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. Let's get it. Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. This is what it reads. It says, and when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up in a cloud, received, and read it again. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken. This is an account when Yahushua was taken up in that chariot, right? Okay, and basically when he was being up in that chariot, Yahushua, okay, they were looking up. These Israelites were looking up, right? But then it says, and when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. Okay? And then I'm going to read verse 10. It says, and while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel. Verse 11, it says, which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yahushai, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner. The same way Yahushua went up in that chariot is the same way he coming back. That's what the scriptures say. I'll read 11 again. Which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yahushua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner, as ye have seen him go into heaven. Now, real quick, I want to read Acts 1 and 9 from the top one more time, when it says, and when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up in a cloud. I want to look into that word cloud, because it's in Acts 1 and 9, it says cloud too, just like how it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 17. This is Acts chapter 1 and verse 9 for the word cloud. Strong's Concordance G3507. The same concordance that it has in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 17 for clouds. Same concordance, G3507. Used of the cloud which led the Israelites in the wilderness. This cloud, it didn't say nothing else about the nations. And it didn't, damn sure didn't say nothing about no rapture. It ain't saying nothing about no rapture. This right here in Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. Acts chapter 1 and verse 9. We read that. Now I want to go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, see, it's is leading up to what we want it to be led up to, Akim. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 51 and 52. It reads, matter of fact, I'm going to read verse 50 first just to see who this is talking about. Okay? This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50, and I'm going to read down. It says, now this I say, brethren. Now here's a key word right here, brethren. You go into that word, brethren, right? Just the same brethren, just the exact same brethren that it has in Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9. What does it say for brethren in Romans chapter 9? It says this. Romans chapter 9. It says, I say the truth in the Mashiach, I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Spirit that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. Verse 3, for I can wish that myself were accursed from a Mashiach, for my brethren. That word brethren. It says brethren. You look into that word brethren. Adelphos, that means your own kin, according to the flesh. That's what it says right here in Romans 9 and 3 too. Your own kinfolk, your own, who you come from, your own, the same blood line that you come from. Kinfolk, your same family, kinsmen. Romans 9 and 3, for I could wish that myself were accursed from a Mashiach, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. Verse 4, who are Israelites. But the key point right here is in verse 3, it says, for I can wish that myself were accursed from a Mashiach, for my brethren. It says brethren right here in Romans chapter 9 and verse 3. We go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 50 when it says, now this I say, brethren. You look into that word brethren in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 50. It has the same concordance that it has in Romans chapter 9 and verse 3 for brethren. That's who it's talking about. 1 Corinthians chapter is talking about the Israelites. 1 Corinthians 15 and 50. Now this I say, brethren, Israelite brethren, the Israelites. It says this, now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Verse 51, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. Now, what is this talking about? Verse 52, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet, that sounds just like 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 to 17. And we know that 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 to 17, in the Tree of Life version translation of the footnotes, it told us to compare 1 Thessalonians 4 and 16 with 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 16. It told us to compare with Exodus chapter 19 and verse 16. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 52. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible. Now in the New Century New Testament, it says immortal. So that means the second we be beamed up in those chariots, the second that the Lord, he's going to transform us. And we're going to be immortal. The children of Israel, we're going to be immortal. That's what the scripture says. I'm going to read it again. First Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 52, it says, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible. Remember, New Century New Testament says immortal, and we shall be changed. Verse 53, this corruptible must put on incorruption, because this corruptible flesh that we in now, it can't inherit the kingdom of heaven. We need to be changed. The children of Israel need to be changed, transformed. Because it says, remember what verse 50 says, now this I say, brethren, flesh and blood cannot inherit this mortal flesh and blood, this weak flesh, this abominable, sinful flesh. It can't inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. We need to be transformed and changed. Verse 53, it says, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. What is immortality? See, we can't play stupid. We can't play stupid and pretend like we don't know what is immortality. What does immortality mean? What does that mean? This right here is in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 51 and 52 in the Evangelical Heritage Version translation. It says this: the change to immortality on the last day. Okay? On the last day. Let me read it again. Evangelical. It says, verse 50, verse 50, 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51 and 52, in Evangelical Heritage Version translation, it says, the change to immortality on the last day. 1 Corinthians 15 and 50. I got to go into the word brethren so that y'all, so the new listeners won't think I'm lying about this. 1 Corinthians 15 and 50 for brethren is, the concordance is G80. Same brethren, G80, as Romans chapter 9 and verse 3. We read that. Okay? Romans chapter 9 and verse 3. Expanded Version translation. For I would even wish that I were cursed and cut off from a Mashiach, if that would help, parentheses, for the sake of my Jewish brothers and sisters, my people. Contemporary, Salakia. It says, sisters, my people, countrymen, relatives, my people, parentheses, country, relatives, according to the flesh. Living Bible translation, it reads, O Israel, my people, O my Jewish brothers. 1 Corinthians 15 and 53, right? 1 Corinthians 15 and 53, on the bottom of my page, it tells us to go to real quick. 1 Corinthians 15 and 53. Okay, no, it's not on the bottom of the page, but we still gonna go to this version. I mean, to this verse. First Corinthians, because it does coincide with 1 Corinthians 15 and 53. 1 Corinthians 15:53, we read that. It says, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. Isaiah chapter 65. Isaiah chapter 65. Rakatha Yahweh, Rakatha Yahweh Shai. Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 22. It reads, they shall not build and another inhabit, right? It says they shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people. Who is the Lord's people? Israel. It says, as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. This is Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 22. Okay? I'm going to read it again. It says, they shall not build, because this is the time we're coming into. Okay? This is the time we're coming into. Okay? It says this. Matter of fact, I'm going to read verse 17, because this is what the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is going to do. It says, verse 17, Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17, it says, for behold, I create new heavens and a new earth. See, the Lord is going to destroy not destroy the earth, but the Lord is going to destroy the wickedness and the evil out this earth with ICBM nuclear missile fire, right? The Lord is going to cleanse this earth and make it new again, refresh it. And we know what fire does. It's a cleansing agent. It burns, it cleanses it. Fire is a cleansing agent. It says, for behold, this old world that we're living in now, this earth that we this old world, this earth that we're living in now, it needs to be cleansed of its filthiness and wickedness, and that's what the Lord's going to do. It says, for behold, I create a new heaven and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. Okay? Verse 18, but be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create, for behold, I create Jerusalem, a rejoicing, in her people a joy. Verse 19, and I will rejoice in Jerusalem. This is the Lord's people. Israel, physical Israelites, and joy in my people, and the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. Okay? Verse 20, it says, there shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old. See, this is talking about this is immortality. The children of Israel are going to be immortals, just like what we read in First Thessalonians. I mean, it's like in 1 Corinthians 15, 51 and 52. And I will rejoice. This is Isaiah 65 and 19. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that have not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old. But the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. Right? But then I'm going to jump down. Verse 22. Back to verse 21. And they shall build houses and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. Verse 22. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree or the days of my people. And we know a tree can live a long ass time. We're going to prove that too. As the days of a tree, this is the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai speaking concerning his people. As the days of a tree are the days of my people, and my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. This is I Googled the oldest tree in the world. What is the oldest tree in the world? And this is what it brought up. It said Methuselah. And we know that Methuselah, in the Old Testament, in Genesis, Methuselah was the oldest man to live. Methuselah. So it's kind of crazy how they called the oldest tree in the world Methuselah. Right? I'm going to read it again. This is, I've Googled, what is the oldest tree in the world? It says Methuselah. It says a great basin, bristlecone pine in California's White Mountains is estimated to be between 4,800 years old and 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old, man, that's immortal. But then we go be immortal forever. But even 5,000 years old, that's a long ass time. That's immortal. Then the Lord say right here in Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 22, it says, they shall not build and another inhabit, they shall not plant and another eat, for as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. Right? What is the oldest tree in the world? It's called Methuselah, a great basin bristlecone pine in California's White Mountains. Is estimated to be between 4,800 and 5,000 years old. I got to get one last precept. This is Genesis chapter 5 and verse 27. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Genesis 5 and 27, it says this. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. That's 969 years that Methuselah lived. But remember, They called the oldest tree in the world Methuselah. It's a Great Basin bristlecone pine in California's White Mountains. It's estimated to be between 4,800 years old and 5,000 years old. But Methuselah lived 969 years. That's even a long time. But the oldest tree in the world is a basin bristlecone called Methuselah. It's between 4,800 years old. But it's between 4,800 and 5,000 years old. Methuselah lived to be 969 years old. The oldest tree in the world is between 4,000 and 5,000 years old. I'm going to read it again. Isaiah 65:22. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant. And this is what we're coming into. This is what we're coming into. The new earth. The Lord, we read that. The new earth. The Lord is going to create a new earth. Refresh this earth that we're in. The Lord is going to refresh it, make it new again. Isaiah 65:22, they shall not build and another inhabit it. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people. And my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. It makes more sense when it talks. We already proved it. When we went to 1 Thessalonians 4:16 to 17, we proved that. We went to 1 Corinthians 15 and 51 and 52. We proved it. We proved it. There's no denying. We're not making this up. We're not lying. We're not preaching a false doctrine. We're proving it. We're proving it. We have proved it. So I'm going to wrap it up. Akim, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash Barakatah. Double honors to the elders and the apostles and the righteous men of Great Millstone who teach us this truth in righteousness and sincerity and in brotherly love. Let's stay strong, Akim. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Till the next lesson. Kwam Yasharala. Shalom.